Maya Chen walked through the crowded halls of Jefferson High School with her backpack slung over one shoulder, trying to blend into the stream of students rushing to their next classes. At 17, she had learned the art of staying invisible. Her father had taught her many things, but drawing unnecessary attention was not one of them. She kept her head down and moved with purpose, the way he had shown her during their morning runs through the neighborhood. The late September sun filtered through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the polished floors. Maya's sneakers squeaked softly against the linoleum as she navigated around clusters of students gathered near their lockers. She checked her watch, 15 minutes until her chemistry class started. Plenty of time to grab her textbook and find a quiet spot to review her notes. Maya had transferred to Jefferson High just 3 weeks ago when her family moved to the small coastal town of Millbrook. Her father's new assignment required them to relocate frequently, something she had grown accustomed to over the years. This was their 7th move in 5 years, and Maya had perfected the routine of starting over. New school, new faces, new chance to remain unnoticed. The town of Millbrook was different from their previous locations. Nestled between rolling hills and the Atlantic Ocean, it had a population of barely 8,000 people. Everyone seemed to know everyone else's business, which made Maya even more determined to keep a low profile. Her father had warned her about small towns and how quickly gossip could spread. He preferred their family to maintain their privacy, especially regarding his work. Maya's locker was located in the junior hallway, tucked between a bulletin board covered in college recruitment flyers and a trophy case displaying decades of athletic achievements. She spun the combination lock with practiced efficiency, her mind already focused on the upcoming chemistry exam. Science had always been her strongest subject, a trait she suspected came from her father's analytical nature. As she reached for her chemistry textbook, Maya heard familiar voices approaching from behind. Her stomach tightened with recognition. Tyler Morrison and his group of friends had been making her life miserable since her first day at Jefferson High. Tyler was the kind of person who seemed to feed off making others uncomfortable, particularly those he perceived as outsiders or easy targets. Well, look what we have here. Tyler's voice carried that mocking tone Maya had come to dread. The new girl who thinks she's too good to talk to anybody. Maya closed her locker slowly, hoping they would lose interest and move on. She had learned from previous schools that engaging with bullies often made situations worse. Her father had taught her about choosing battles wisely, and this didn't seem like one worth fighting. She turned around to face Tyler and his 3 companions, keeping her expression neutral. Tyler Morrison was tall and broad-shouldered, with the kind of confidence that came from being the star quarterback of the football team. His sandy blonde hair was perfectly styled, and he wore his Letterman jacket like armor. The other boys flanked him in a semicircle: Jake Patterson, the team's running back, Marcus Webb, a linebacker, and Danny Rodriguez, who played defensive end. They represented the social elite of Jefferson High, and they knew it. "I'm just trying to get to class," Maya said quietly, adjusting her backpack strap. She attempted to step around them, but Tyler moved to block her path. "That's not very friendly," Tyler said, his smile not reaching his eyes. "We're just trying to be welcoming to the new student. Isn't that right, guys?" The other boys chuckled and nodded, clearly enjoying their leader's performance. Maya noticed how other students in the hallway began to slow down, sensing drama, but not wanting to get too close. She recognized the look in their eyes, the mixture of curiosity and relief that someone else was the target. "We heard some interesting things about you," Jake Patterson added, stepping closer. "Seems like nobody knows much about your family. That's pretty weird for a town like this." Maya felt her jaw clench slightly. Her father had prepared her for questions about their background, but she hadn't expected them to come in the form of harassment. "There's nothing weird about it. We just moved here from Virginia." "Virginia, huh?" Marcus Webb joined in. "What does your dad do that has you moving around so much?" Some people are saying he might be running from something. The comment hit closer to home than Maya cared to admit. Her father's work with naval special warfare often required secrecy, but not for the reasons these boys were implying. She took a deep breath, reminding herself of her father's advice about staying calm under pressure. "My father works for the government," Maya replied evenly. "That's all you need to know." Tyler laughed loudly, a sound that echoed off the hallway walls. Government work, she says. Could be anything. Could be a janitor at the post office for all we know. Or maybe he's in witness protection, Danny Rodriguez suggested with a smirk. That would explain all the moving around and the secrecy. Maya felt heat rising in her cheeks, but she forced herself to remain composed. These boys had no idea what her father had sacrificed in service to his country, the missions he had completed, or the lives he had saved. They couldn't comprehend the level of training and dedication required to earn the Navy SEAL trident that her father wore with quiet pride. "You guys are really funny," Maya said, her voice steady despite her growing anger. "Is this how you welcome all new students? Or am I just special?" "Oh, you're definitely special," Tyler said, stepping even closer. "Special enough that we think you need to learn how things work around here. See, there's a social order at Jefferson High, and new kids need to understand their place." The warning bell rang, signaling 5 minutes until the next class period. Maya saw her opportunity to escape this confrontation. "I need to get to chemistry class." "Chemistry class," Marcus repeated mockingly. "Let me guess, you think you're some kind of genius?" "Another know-it-all who's going to show up, all the local kids." "I just want to do well in school," Maya said, trying once more to move past them. Tyler reached out and grabbed her backpack, pulling it off her shoulder before she could react. "Let's see what the genius carries around with her." Maya's training kicked in instinctively. Her father had spent countless hours teaching her self-defense, emphasizing the importance of remaining alert and ready. But he had also taught her about escalation and when violence was truly necessary. This wasn't one of those times, despite every instinct telling her to take action. "Give me my backpack," Maya said firmly, her voice carrying a new edge that made Tyler pause momentarily. "Or what?" Tyler challenged, holding the backpack just out of her reach. "You'll call your mysterious government worker daddy?" The other boys laughed at Tyler's joke, but Maya noticed that their laughter sounded forced. Something in her demeanor had shifted, and even they could sense it. Years of living with a father who commanded respect through quiet competence had taught Maya how to project authority when necessary. "I'm asking nicely," Maya said, extending her hand. "Please give me my backpack so I can go to class." Tyler seemed to consider this for a moment, perhaps recognizing that he was pushing boundaries he didn't fully understand. But his pride and his audience prevented him from backing down. "I don't think you said please nicely enough." Maya's phone buzzed in her pocket, a text from her father asking about her day. The irony wasn't lost on her. At that very moment, Commander David Chun was likely planning operations that would protect American interests around the world, while his daughter dealt with teenage bullies who had no concept of real problems. "Look," Maya said, trying a different approach. "I don't want any trouble. I'm just trying to fit in and do well in school. Can we please just let this go?" "Fit in?" Danny Rodriguez laughed. "You can't even tell us what your dad does for work. How are we supposed to trust someone who won't be honest about basic stuff?" Maya realized that these boys wouldn't be satisfied with anything she told them. They weren't really interested in information about her family. They were interested in establishing dominance and entertainment. She had encountered similar situations before, and the pattern was always the same. "My father's work is classified," Maya said, deciding to give them a small piece of truth. "That's why I can't discuss it." This revelation seemed to energize the group rather than satisfy them. Tyler's eyes lit up with renewed interest. "Classified? Now we're getting somewhere. What kind of classified work?" "The kind that requires security clearances and background checks," Maya replied, immediately regretting giving them any additional information. "Security clearances," Marcus repeated slowly. "Sounds like spy stuff to me. Is your dad a spy?" Maya shook her head, knowing that anything she said would only fuel their speculation. Her father wasn't a spy, but his work with SEAL Team 6 often intersected with intelligence operations in ways she couldn't explain to civilians. "I bet he's not even really government," Jake suggested. "Probably just tells people that to sound important. My uncle works for the State Highway Department, and he calls that government work too." The second bell rang, indicating 1 minute until class began. Maya could see her chemistry teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, standing in her doorway looking down the hall with concern. Other teachers were beginning to emerge from their classrooms to investigate the commotion. "Gentlemen, shouldn't you be in class?" came a stern voice from behind the group. Maya looked past Tyler's shoulder to see Mr. Anderson, the vice principal, approaching with determined strides. He was a tall, thin man in his 50s with graying hair and the no-nonsense attitude of someone who had dealt with teenage drama for decades. "We were just welcoming the new student," Tyler said smoothly, finally, handing Maya her backpack. "Making sure she knows where everything is." Mr. Anderson's expression suggested he wasn't buying Tyler's explanation. "I'm sure Miss Chun can find her way around just fine. Now, all of you need to get to your classes before you're marked tardy." The group began to disperse, but Tyler lingered for a moment longer. "See you around, Maya. Maybe we can continue our conversation about your family later." Maya felt a chill at the implied threat in his words. As Tyler walked away with his friends, she heard them talking in low voices and occasionally looking back at her. She knew this wasn't over. "Are you all right, Maya?" Mr. Anderson asked, approaching her with genuine concern. "Yes, sir. Just a misunderstanding," Maya replied, not wanting to escalate the situation by filing a complaint on her third week of school. "If you ever have any problems, my door is always open," Mr. Anderson said kindly. "New students sometimes face challenges adjusting, but it does get easier." Maya nodded and thanked him, then hurried to her chemistry class. As she slipped into her seat just as the final bell rang, Mrs. Rodriguez gave her an understanding look but didn't comment on her tardiness. Throughout the chemistry lesson, Maya found it difficult to concentrate. Her mind kept replaying the confrontation in the hallway and Tyler's parting words. She had faced bullies before, but never in a place where her family planned to stay for an extended period. Her father's current assignment was expected to last at least 2 years, which meant she would have to find a way to coexist with Tyler and his friends. Maya pulled out her notebook and tried to focus on Mrs. Rodriguez's explanation of molecular bonding, but her thoughts kept drifting to her father. Commander David Chun had served his country with distinction for over 20 years, earning commendations and the respect of his peers. He had completed missions in some of the world's most dangerous locations, protecting American interests and saving countless lives. The harassment escalated over the following weeks, transforming from casual mockery into a systematic campaign designed to make Maya's life miserable. Tyler and his friends seemed to take pleasure in cornering her between classes, making loud comments about her mysterious family, and creating situations that would embarrass her in front of other students. Maya endured it all with the stoic patience her father had instilled in her, but she could feel her resolve beginning to wear thin. Maya's routine had become a carefully choreographed dance of avoidance. She memorized Tyler's schedule, identified alternative routes between classrooms, and timed her movements to minimize encounters. During lunch, she retreated to the library where she could eat in peace while working on assignments. The librarian, Mrs. Patterson, had noticed her daily visits and begun saving a quiet corner table for her. Despite her efforts to stay under the radar, the confrontations continued to find her. Tyler's group had expanded their tactics beyond direct harassment. They began spreading rumors about her family, suggesting everything from criminal backgrounds to financial troubles. Maya heard whispered conversations that stopped abruptly when she approached, and she noticed the way some students now looked at her with suspicion or pity. The breaking point came on a Friday afternoon in mid-October. Maya was leaving her advanced placement history class when she found Tyler and his entire group waiting for her in the hallway. This time, they had brought reinforcements, several other football players, and even some of their girlfriends. The crowd formed a loose circle around her as she tried to navigate toward her locker. "Hey everyone, gather around," Tyler announced loudly, his voice carrying across the hallway. "Our mysterious new girl has something to tell us about her family. Don't you, Maya?" Maya felt heat rising in her cheeks as more students began to stop and watch. She estimated at least 30 people were now surrounding her, creating an audience for whatever humiliation Tyler had planned. The hallway noise died down as students sensed drama unfolding. "I don't have anything to tell you," Maya said firmly, trying to project confidence despite the nervous energy building in her stomach. "Oh, but I think you do," Tyler continued, clearly enjoying the attention. "See, I've been doing some research, asking around town about your family, and you know what I found out?" Maya remained silent, but her mind raced through possibilities. Millbrook was a small town, and people talked. However, her father had been careful about maintaining their cover story during their brief time there. "Nobody knows anything about you," Tyler said dramatically. "And I mean nobody. The neighbors haven't seen your dad leave for work. No one knows what kind of car he drives. It's like your family are ghosts or something." Several students murmured among themselves, and Maya could see curiosity and suspicion growing in their faces. Tyler was painting a picture that made her family seem strange and potentially dangerous, which was exactly the kind of attention her father worked hard to avoid. "Maybe that's because we mind our own business," Maya replied calmly. "Some people prefer privacy." "Privacy?" Tyler laughed loudly. "This isn't privacy. This is hiding. And people only hide when they have something to be ashamed of." Jake Patterson stepped forward, emboldened by the crowd's attention. "My dad knows everyone in this town who works for the government. State, federal, local. He knows them all. And he's never heard of your father." Maya felt a flash of anger, but kept her expression neutral. Jake's father worked as a clerk in the town hall, hardly the position to have comprehensive knowledge of federal employees, especially those involved in classified operations. "There are lots of government jobs your dad wouldn't know about," Maya said evenly. "Like what?" Marcus Webb challenged. "Name one government job that's so secret nobody in town would know about it." Maya found herself in an impossible position. Any answer she gave would either reveal classified information or sound like she was making excuses. Her father's work with naval special warfare was indeed secret, but explaining that would violate operational security protocols that had been drilled into her since childhood. "I told you before, my father's work requires security clearances. That means I can't discuss details," Maya said, trying to end the conversation. "Security clearances," Tyler repeated mockingly. "Right? You know what I think? I think your dad doesn't have a job at all. I think your family is living off welfare or something. And you're too embarrassed to admit it." The accusation stung more than Maya expected. Her father had served his country with distinction for over 2 decades, risking his life in operations around the world. The idea that these privileged teenagers would question his integrity or suggest he was somehow failing to provide for his family was almost too much to bear. "That's not true," Maya said, her voice carrying more emotion than she intended. "Then, prove it," Tyler demanded. "Tell us what he does. Where does he work? What's his job title?" Simple questions that any normal kid could answer about their parent. Maya felt trapped. The crowd had grown larger, and she could see phones being pulled out to record whatever happened next. In the age of social media, any response she made could potentially be shared beyond the school, creating security risks for her father's operations. "I don't have to prove anything to you," Maya said, attempting to push through the crowd. Tyler stepped directly into her path, using his size and the crowd's energy to intimidate her. "I think you do. You come into our school, act like you're better than everyone else, won't answer simple questions about your family. That's not how things work here." "Let me through," Maya said firmly, her training helping her remain outwardly calm despite the stress of the situation. "Not until you answer the question," Tyler insisted. "What does your daddy do for work?" "It's really simple." Maya looked around the circle of faces surrounding her. Some students appeared uncomfortable with the confrontation, but none were willing to intervene. She recognized the mob mentality that her father had warned her about, how normally reasonable people could become cruel when part of a group dynamic. "Fine," Maya said, making a calculated decision. "My father works in naval logistics. He coordinates supply chain operations for military bases. That's why we move frequently. He gets assigned to different locations." The explanation was technically truthful, though it omitted the critical detail that her father's logistics work involved planning and executing special operations missions. Maya hoped the partial truth would satisfy Tyler's need for information while maintaining operational security. Tyler considered this for a moment, and Maya thought she might have successfully deflected the situation. But then, Danny Rodriguez spoke up from behind her. "Naval logistics," he said slowly. "That sounds made up. My brother is in the Navy, and he never mentioned anything about logistics requiring security clearances." Maya's heart sank. She hadn't anticipated that someone in the group might have military connections that would allow them to poke holes in her cover story. "There are different levels of logistics," Maya said, trying to maintain the deception. Some involve sensitive materials or strategic planning. Strategic planning. Tyler seized on the phrase. Now we're getting somewhere. So your dad is some kind of military strategist? Maya realized she was digging herself deeper into a hole. Each answer led to more questions, and she was running out of ways to explain her father's work without revealing classified information. I've told you what I can tell you, Maya said with finality. I'm not discussing this anymore. Oh, I think you are, Tyler said menacingly. Because I think you're lying. I think everything you've told us is made up. I think your dad is probably unemployed, and your family is hiding in this town because you can't afford to live anywhere else. The accusation was so far from the truth that Maya almost laughed. Her father's salary and benefits as a senior chief petty officer, combined with hazardous duty pay and other special compensation, provided their family with comfortable middle-class living. The suggestion that they were hiding due to financial problems revealed how little these teenagers understood about the real world. Believe whatever you want, Maya said, attempting once again to leave. This time, Tyler grabbed her arm to prevent her from moving. The physical contact crossed a line that Maya's training had prepared her for, but she forced herself to remain controlled. Her father had taught her that violence should always be a last resort, used only when no other options existed. Let go of me, Maya said quietly, her voice carrying a warning tone that made several students step back instinctively. Tyler either didn't recognize the danger in her voice or chose to ignore it. I'll let go when you tell us the truth about your family. Real answers, not the made-up stories you've been feeding us. Maya looked directly into Tyler's eyes, and, for the first time in weeks, she stopped trying to appear small and harmless. Years of living with a Navy SEAL had taught her how to project authority and confidence when necessary. Her posture straightened, her jaw set with determination, and something dangerous flickered in her expression. I said let go of me, Maya repeated, her voice carrying the quiet authority of someone who expected to be obeyed. Tyler seemed to recognize that something had changed in Maya's demeanor, but his pride and the crowd's expectations prevented him from backing down. Or what? You'll call your mysterious daddy to come save you. Maya's training kicked in automatically. Her father had spent countless hours teaching her self-defense, emphasizing the importance of controlling situations before they escalated to violence. But he had also taught her that some people only understood force, and that knowing when to apply it was crucial for survival. Tyler, she said calmly, you have exactly 3 seconds to remove your hand from my arm. The countdown carried such authority that several students in the crowd began to move backward, sensing that something was about to happen. Tyler's friends exchanged uncertain glances, suddenly, unsure about the situation they had helped create. Or what? Tyler challenged, but Maya could hear uncertainty creeping into his voice. 1, Maya said quietly. Tyler's grip tightened on her arm, perhaps thinking he could intimidate her into submission. 2, Maya continued, her voice remaining perfectly calm. Tyler looked around at the crowd, realizing that he had created a situation where backing down would cause him to lose face. But continuing forward might lead to consequences he wasn't prepared for. 3, Maya said. What happened next occurred so quickly that most students didn't fully process it until after the fact. Maya used a technique her father had taught her for breaking grips, combined with a leverage move that sent Tyler stumbling backward into Marcus Webb. Both boys ended up on the ground in a tangle of limbs, looking shocked and embarrassed. Maya hadn't hurt either of them. Her father had taught her to use only the minimum force necessary to resolve a situation. But the speed and efficiency of her movement had demonstrated that she was far from helpless, and that underestimating her could have serious consequences. The hallway fell completely silent as Tyler and Marcus picked themselves up off the floor. Both boys looked confused and angry, unsure of what had just happened or how to respond. Maya stood calmly where she had been, not appearing to have exerted any effort at all. If you ever put your hands on me again, Maya said quietly, addressing Tyler directly, the outcome will be much worse. Do we understand each other? Tyler's face flushed red with embarrassment and anger. Being humiliated in front of his friends and a crowd of students was exactly the kind of thing that could damage his social status permanently. Maya realized that while she had resolved the immediate situation, she had probably made a much larger enemy in the process. "This isn't over," Tyler said through gritted teeth as he brushed dirt from his Letterman jacket. "Yes, it is," Maya replied calmly. "Unless you make it continue. And if you do, you won't like how it ends." The crowd began to disperse as students realized the show was the weekend brought Maya a temporary reprieve from school tensions. But she knew Monday would bring consequences for her confrontation with Tyler. She spent Saturday helping her father organize his home office, a ritual they shared whenever he returned from extended assignments. Commander David Chun maintained his personal workspace with the same precision he applied to military operations, and Maya had learned to appreciate the calming effect of systematic organization. Their house sat on a quiet street lined with mature oak trees, a modest two-story colonial that blended seamlessly with the neighborhood's character. Her father had chosen it specifically for its unremarkable appearance and strategic location, close enough to the naval base for his work requirements, but far enough from military housing to maintain civilian cover. Maya watched her father arrange files in his secure cabinet, each document handled with practiced care. Even at home, he maintained operational security protocols that had become second nature over 2 decades of service. She wondered if other teenagers had fathers who locked away their work materials every night and checked window blinds before discussing certain topics. "How was your first month at the new school?" her father asked as he secured the cabinet with a complex electronic lock. Maya hesitated, unsure how much to reveal about her ongoing problems with Tyler's group. Her father had always encouraged honesty, but she also knew he worried about the impact of their lifestyle on her social development. The last thing she wanted was to trigger a conversation about transferring schools again. "It's been an adjustment," Maya said carefully. "The academic standards are different from our last school." Commander Chun turned to study his daughter's face with the same analytical attention he applied to mission briefings. Maya recognized the look. Her father could detect evasion and misdirection with an accuracy that made lying to him nearly impossible. "Academic standards," he repeated slowly. "That's an interesting way to describe social integration challenges." Maya felt heat rising in her cheeks. Her father's ability to read between the lines was legendary among his colleagues, and she had never been able to hide much from him. "There have been some social challenges, too." "What kind of challenges?" Commander Chen asked, settling into his desk chair with the patient demeanor of someone prepared to wait as long as necessary for complete information. Maya took a deep breath and decided to trust her father with the truth. Over the next 20 minutes, she detailed the harassment campaign Tyler's group had waged against her, including their speculation about her family and their persistent demands for information about her father's work. She finished by describing Friday's confrontation and her decision to use the self-defense techniques he had taught her. Commander Chen listened without interruption, his expression remaining neutral throughout Maya's account. When she finished, he was quiet for several minutes, processing the information with the thoroughness he applied to tactical planning. "You handled the immediate situation correctly," he said finally. "Minimal force, maximum effectiveness, clear communication of boundaries. I'm proud of how you applied your training." Maya felt a wave of relief at her father's approval, but she could sense there was more coming. "However," Commander Chen continued, "we need to discuss the larger implications of what's happening. These boys have identified you as a target specifically because they can't gather intelligence about our family. Their curiosity is natural, but it's also dangerous." Maya nodded, understanding the complexity of their situation. Her father's work required anonymity, but that same anonymity made them appear suspicious to civilians who expected transparency in small-town interactions. "What should I do if they keep pushing for information?" Maya asked. "You continue to reveal nothing of operational value," her father replied firmly. "But we also need to consider whether your cover story needs adjustment. Naval logistics was a good choice. It's technically accurate and explains frequent moves without suggesting special operations involvement." Commander Chen pulled out a notepad and began sketching what Maya recognized as a tactical assessment matrix. Her father approached every problem with military precision, identifying variables, evaluating options, and developing contingency plans. "Tell me about these boys' backgrounds," he said. "Family connections, social status, potential sources of information they might access." Maya provided detailed profiles of Tyler and his friends, including what she knew about their families and their positions in the school's social hierarchy. Her father listened intently, occasionally asking clarifying questions that revealed his strategic thinking. "The Morrison boy concerns me most," Commander Chin said after reviewing his notes. "Quarterback, social leader, accustomed to getting what he wants. Boys like that don't handle embarrassment well, especially in front of their peer group." Maya felt her stomach tighten with anxiety. "Do you think he'll escalate things?" "Almost certainly," her father replied matter-of-factly. "But escalation creates opportunities as well as risks. If he pushes too hard, he might expose himself to consequences that will end this situation permanently." Commander Chin stood and walked to the window, checking the street with the automatic caution that never left him. Maya wondered if her classmates' fathers spent their weekends analyzing teenage social dynamics like military intelligence problems. "I want you to document everything that happens from now on," her father said, returning to his desk. "Dates, times, witnesses, exact words used. If this escalates beyond what you can handle alone, we'll need evidence to support intervention." Maya agreed, though she hoped such documentation wouldn't become necessary. Her father handed her a small notebook from his desk drawer, the same type he used for mission planning. "There's something else we need to discuss," Commander Chin said, his tone becoming more serious. "Your display of capabilities on Friday was necessary, but it also revealed that you're not the easy target these boys assumed you were. That changes their risk assessment of you." Maya understood what her father was saying. By demonstrating her training, she had escalated the situation from simple bullying to something more complex. Tyler now knew she could defend herself, which meant any future confrontations would be planned with that knowledge in mind. "I should have found another way to handle it," Maya said, feeling guilty about the complications her actions might have created. "No," Commander Chin said firmly. "You should never apologize for defending yourself against unwanted physical contact. But we do need to be prepared for the possibility that these boys might decide you're a threat that needs to be neutralized." The word neutralized carried ominous weight when spoken by a man who understood violence at a professional level. Maya felt a chill as she realized her teenage drama might be evolving into something that concerned an experienced Navy SEAL. "What kind of neutralization?" Maya asked quietly. "Teenage boys have limited options," her father replied. "They might try to turn other students against you, spread more damaging rumors, or attempt to provoke you into actions that would result in school discipline. The key is not to give them ammunition to use against you." Commander Chin opened a different file drawer and pulled out a manila folder marked with Maya's name. Inside were documents she recognized, enrollment records, academic transcripts, and background information prepared for their move to Millbrook. "We've maintained good cover so far," he said, reviewing the papers. "But if these boys become more persistent in their investigation, we might need to provide additional details that will satisfy their curiosity without compromising security." Maya watched her father work through contingency plans with the same methodical approach he brought to military operations. It struck her that most parents dealt with school bullies by calling the principal or arranging parent conferences. Her father was developing a counterintelligence strategy. "What if they try to find out more about you specifically?" Maya asked. "Tyler mentioned doing research. What would he find if he really looked into your background?" Commander Chin smiled slightly, the expression of someone who had planned for such contingencies long before they became necessary. "David Chun is a 20-year Navy veteran who has served in logistics positions around the world. His service record shows deployments to the Mediterranean, Pacific, and Gulf regions in support of supply chain operations. His clearance level is appropriate for his position, and his family moves frequently due to assignment rotations." Maya marveled at the completeness of her father's cover identity. Every detail was technically accurate while concealing the true nature of his work with naval special warfare. She wondered how many other military families lived with such carefully constructed public personas. "The problem," Commander Chin continued, "is that good cover stories require supporting evidence. If these boys become truly persistent, they might discover discrepancies that raise additional questions." Maya felt anxiety building as she contemplated the implications. What kind of discrepancies? Small things that wouldn't matter to most people, but might seem significant to teenagers looking for conspiracy theories. my physical condition, certain skills I've demonstrated, gaps in my civilian interactions, equipment I maintain for training purposes. Commander Chin gestured toward the basement, where Maya knew her father maintained a workout facility that would rival most professional gyms. His training regimen was far beyond what civilian logistics personnel would require, and his equipment included specialized gear that might raise questions from knowledgeable observers. "So what do we do?" Maya asked. "We prepare for multiple scenarios," her father replied, pulling out a fresh sheet of paper. "Best case, these boys lose interest and move on to other targets. Most likely case, they continue low-level harassment, but don't escalate beyond school boundaries. Worst case, they attempt serious investigation of our background or involve adult family members who might have resources we can't control." Maya watched her father create what she recognized as a decision tree, mapping out potential responses to various escalation levels. Each branch included specific triggers that would activate different response protocols. "For now," Commander Chin concluded, "you continue with your current approach. Minimal engagement, documentation of incidents, and no revelation of operational information. But I want you to be extra alert for signs that their interest is expanding beyond casual harassment." Monday morning brought an electric tension to Jefferson High School that Maya could sense the moment she walked through the front doors. Word of Friday's confrontation had spread over the weekend, transformed and amplified through social media and teenage gossip until the story bore little resemblance to what had actually occurred. Maya heard fragments of conversations as she walked to her locker, some portraying her as a trained fighter, others suggesting she had used weapons, and a few claiming she had seriously injured Tyler. Maya opened her locker methodically, maintaining the composed demeanor her father had taught her while mentally cataloging the changed atmosphere around her. Students who had previously ignored her now watched openly, some with curiosity, others with what appeared to be fear or respect. The social dynamics that had kept her invisible for weeks had shifted overnight. Tyler Morrison stood near the trophy case with his usual group, but their body language was different. Instead of the relaxed confidence they typically displayed, Maya noticed tension in their postures and frequent glances in her direction. Tyler's jaw was set with determination, and his eyes carried the cold anger of someone planning retaliation. Maya's first-period American literature class proceeded normally until Tyler and Jake Patterson entered 15 minutes late, carrying passes from the principal's office. They took seats directly behind Maya, close enough that she could hear their whispered conversations throughout the lesson. Maya focused on Mrs. Henderson's analysis of character motivation in The Crucible, while documenting the boys' behavior in the notebook her father had provided. "Some people think they can come into our school and disrespect everyone," Jake said loud enough for Maya to hear clearly. "But actions have consequences." Maya continued taking notes on the lesson, refusing to acknowledge the obvious provocation. Her father had warned her that Tyler would likely attempt to goad her into reactions that could be used against her later. "I heard some interesting things about military families this weekend," Tyler added, his voice carrying the smugness of someone who believed he held valuable information. "Turns out there are ways to verify whether someone's telling the truth about their background." Maya's pen stopped moving for just a moment before she forced herself to continue writing. Tyler's comment suggested he had been actively investigating her family over the weekend, which aligned with her father's prediction that the boys would escalate their efforts. After class, Maya deliberately took her time gathering her materials, allowing Tyler and Jake to leave first. She had learned from her father that controlling the timing of encounters often prevented ambushes and provided tactical advantages. When she finally left the classroom, she found Marcus Webb waiting in the hallway with two other football players she didn't recognize. "Maya," Marcus called out as she approached. "We need to talk." Maya evaluated her options quickly. The hallway was crowded with students changing classes, which provided witnesses, but also potential complications if a confrontation developed. Her next class was Advanced Placement Chemistry, and being late would disappoint Mrs. Rodriguez, who had become one of her favorite teachers. "I'm heading to class," Maya replied calmly, attempting to walk past the group. One of the unknown football players, a large boy with closely cropped hair and an aggressive stance, stepped into her path. "Marcus said we need to talk." "That means we're talking." Maya recognized the escalation pattern from her father's briefings on crowd dynamics and threat assessment. The introduction of new players indicated that Tyler's group was expanding their campaign and bringing in additional resources. "I don't know you," Maya said evenly, looking directly at the boy who had blocked her path. "And I don't have anything to discuss with you." "I'm Derek Walsh," the boy replied with the tone of someone who expected his name to carry weight. "I'm team captain, and I don't appreciate new students coming into our school and attacking my players." Maya now understood the dynamics at play. Tyler had apparently portrayed Friday's incident to the team leadership as an unprovoked attack, leveraging his social status to gain support from older and more influential players. "Nobody was attacked," Maya said calmly. "Someone grabbed me without permission, and I removed their hand from my arm. If you want to call that an attack, that's your choice." Derek's expression suggested he wasn't interested in nuanced explanations of the incident. "Tyler Morrison is one of our best players, and he says you threatened him. That makes it team business." Maya realized that the situation had evolved beyond teenage bullying into something involving school social hierarchies and group loyalties. Her father's warning about escalation was proving accurate faster than either of them had anticipated. If Tyler feels threatened by a girl who's 6 inches shorter and 50 pounds lighter than him, maybe he shouldn't be playing football, Maya replied, allowing a slight edge to enter her voice. The comment hit home with Derek, whose face flushed with anger. Maya recognized that she had challenged the masculine pride that formed the foundation of the football team's social identity. "You've got a smart mouth for someone who's outnumbered 4-1, the second unknown player said, moving closer to Maya's position. Maya assessed the tactical situation with the analytical framework her father had taught her. For opponents, crowded hallway providing limited maneuvering space, witnesses present but unlikely to intervene, escape routes blocked by the group's positioning. The scenario was designed to intimidate rather than facilitate actual violence, but it could escalate quickly if she miscalculated her response. Numbers don't matter if none of you are willing to explain to your parents why you participated in assaulting a female student," Maya said calmly, making direct eye contact with each boy in turn. The observation forced the group to consider consequences beyond their immediate desire to intimidate her. Maya had learned from her father that highlighting potential legal and social repercussions often defused aggressive situations by making participants think beyond the moment. "Nobody's talking about assault," Marcus said quickly, recognizing that Maya had shifted the conversation into dangerous territory for the football players. "Then, what exactly are we talking about?" Maya asked. "Because standing in a group to block someone's path while making threats sounds like intimidation at minimum." Derek seemed frustrated by Maya's refusal to be intimidated. "We're talking about respect. You disrespected one of our teammates, and that affects the whole team." Maya understood that she was facing a fundamental aspect of group psychology that her father had explained during their weekend conversation. Tyler's humiliation had been interpreted as an attack on the entire football team's status, requiring a collective response to maintain their social dominance. "Respect is earned," Maya replied. "It's not something you can demand from people by surrounding them in hallways." The bell rang, signaling the start of the next class period. Maya watched relief flicker across Marcus's face as the formal intimidation session reached a natural endpoint. But Derek appeared determined to conclude the encounter on his terms. "This isn't over," Derek said, stepping aside to allow Maya passage. "You need to learn how things work here, and we're going to teach you." Maya nodded politely and walked toward her chemistry class, maintaining steady pace and relaxed posture despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. She had successfully navigated the confrontation without escalating to violence. But she also recognized that Tyler's campaign had gained institutional support that made her situation more complex. During chemistry class, Maya found it difficult to concentrate on molecular structure problems while processing the morning's events. The football team's involvement changed the dynamics significantly, transforming her conflict with Tyler into a broader challenge to established social hierarchies. She realized that her father's worst-case scenarios were beginning to manifest faster than anticipated. After class, Maya approached Mrs. Rodriguez with a question about extra credit opportunities, but Her real objective was to assess whether the teacher had noticed the unusual tensions surrounding her student. "How are you adjusting to Jefferson High?" Mrs. Rodriguez asked with the perceptive concern of an experienced educator. Maya considered how much to reveal. "There have been some social challenges, but I'm working through them." Mrs. Rodriguez studied Maya's face with the same analytical attention she brought to chemical equations. Social challenges can be very difficult for transfer students, especially when they involve established social groups. "Have you spoken with any of the counselors about your situation?" Maya shook her head. "I prefer to handle things independently when possible." "Independence is admirable," Mrs. Rodriguez said gently, "but sometimes adult intervention can prevent situations from escalating beyond student control. If you ever need someone to talk to, my door is always open." Maya thanked her teacher and headed to lunch, where she planned to use her library sanctuary to document the morning's events and consider her options. As she walked through the hallways, she noticed that news of her confrontation with the football players had already begun to spread. Students whispered as she passed, and she caught fragments of conversations speculating about her background and abilities. Maya settled into her usual corner table in the library and pulled out the notebook her father had provided. She documented the encounter with Derek's group, noting specific threats, witness presence, and tactical observations that might be relevant if the situation continued to escalate. As she wrote, Maya reflected on the complexity of her position. Her father's training had prepared her to handle individual threats and direct confrontations, but navigating the social and political dimensions of teenage hierarchies required different skills. She was fighting a battle on multiple fronts against opponents who understood the terrain better than she did. Maya's phone vibrated with a text message from her father. "How was your morning? Any developments we should discuss?" Maya stared at the message, considering how to summarize the escalating situation. Her father was currently involved in pre-deployment planning that required his complete focus, and she hesitated to burden him with teenage drama when he was preparing for potentially dangerous operations. She typed back, "Some continued social friction. Nothing I can't handle. We'll update you tonight." Her father's response came quickly. "Trust your instincts. Document everything. Call immediately if physical safety becomes a concern." Maya felt reassured by her father's confidence in her abilities, but also aware of the growing weight of responsibility on her shoulders. She was representing not just herself, but her family's honor and her father's reputation, even though he remained unknown to her tormentors. The library period passed quietly, allowing Maya to finish her documentation and review her tactical options. When the bell rang for the next class period, she gathered her materials and prepared to face whatever challenges the afternoon might bring. As Maya walked through the hallways toward her fifth period world history class, she noticed increased attention from students throughout the school. Word of her morning confrontation with the football team had clearly spread, and she could sense the anticipation of further drama in the air. Maya realized that her situation had evolved beyond personal harassment into a form of entertainment for the student body. Tyler Morrison stood near the entrance to the history classroom with several of his friends, clearly positioned to ensure another encounter with Maya. As she approached, Tyler stepped forward with the confident demeanor of someone who believed he held the advantage. "I hear you met some of my teammates this morning," Tyler said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I hope they helped you understand your situation better." Maya maintained steady eye contact while evaluating Tyler's body language and positioning. His posture suggested confidence, but she noticed tension in his shoulders that indicated underlying stress. The presence of his friends provided psychological support, but their positioning blocked potential escape routes while also creating witnesses to whatever happened next. "Your teammates made their position very clear," Maya replied calmly. "Just like you're making yours clear now." Tyler's smile widened, but Maya could see calculation in his eyes. "Good. Then, you understand that some problems require group solutions. And you've become a problem that the whole team is interested in solving." Maya realized that Tyler was announcing his intention to escalate their conflict to a level that would involve the entire football program. Her father's prediction about worst-case scenarios was becoming reality faster than either of them had anticipated. The escalation Maya had been dreading came the following Thursday afternoon in the most unexpected way possible. She was walking toward the student parking lot after her chemistry tutoring session when she heard shouting from the direction of the football practice field. Maya's first instinct was to avoid whatever drama was unfolding, but something about the tone of the voices made her pause and listen more carefully. "Where is she?" Tyler Morrison's voice carried clearly across the open space between buildings. "Maya Chen needs to see this." Maya felt her stomach drop as she realized the commotion was somehow connected to her. Against her better judgment, she changed direction and walked toward the practice field, staying close to the building line to avoid immediate detection. What she saw when she reached the corner made her blood run cold. Tyler and his entire group had cornered a thin boy named Alex Reeves near the equipment shed. Alex was a quiet sophomore whom Maya recognized from her chemistry class, but had never spoken to directly. He was on the ground, his backpack torn open with papers scattered around him, while Tyler held what appeared to be a photograph. "Look what little Alex here was carrying around," Tyler announced loudly, holding up the picture for his friends to see. A photo of our mysterious Maya's house, complete with address written on the back. Maya's training kicked in as she assessed the situation. Alex was clearly terrified and possibly injured. Tyler's group was larger than usual, and they had somehow obtained surveillance photos of her family's residence. The combination represented exactly the kind of security breach her father had warned her about. "I wasn't doing anything wrong," Alex protested from the ground, his voice shaky with fear. "It's just a photography project for art class." "Photography project?" Derek Walsh laughed harshly. "Taking pictures of people's houses without permission. That sounds like stalking to me." Maya moved closer, using the equipment shed as cover while she evaluated her options. Alex appeared to have bruises forming on his face, suggesting the encounter had already turned physical. She counted 8 football players surrounding the boy, far too many for her to handle directly even with her training. "Please just let me go," Alex begged. "I'll delete the photos. I won't take any more pictures." "Oh, you'll delete them all right," Tyler said menacingly. "But first, you're going to tell us everything you know about Maya Chen's family. Start with why a sophomore art student is taking surveillance photos of her house." Maya realized that Alex had inadvertently become involved in Tyler's investigation of her family. His photography hobby had apparently led him to document houses in her neighborhood, creating what Tyler interpreted as intelligence gathering on her background. "I don't know anything about her family," Alex insisted. "I just thought their house had interesting architectural details for my portfolio." Tyler handed the photograph to Marcus Webb and grabbed Alex by his shirt, pulling him to his feet. "Don't lie to me. Nobody takes random photos of houses for art class. You were spying for her, weren't you?" Maya could see that Alex was genuinely confused by Tyler's accusations, but his protests only seemed to anger the football players more. The situation was spiraling towards serious violence, and an innocent student was about to be seriously hurt because of Tyler's obsession with her family. Maya made a decision that her father would later describe as tactically sound but strategically risky. She stepped out from behind the equipment shed and walked directly toward the group, her posture radiating the confidence and authority she had learned from watching her father command respect in dangerous situations. "Let him go," Maya said clearly, her voice carrying across the field with unmistakable authority. The entire group turned toward her, and Maya could see surprise and calculation in their faces. Tyler's expression shifted from anger to satisfaction as he realized his plan to draw her out had worked. Well, Tyler said, maintaining his grip on Alex's shirt. "The mysterious Maya Chun decides to join us. Perfect timing. Alex has nothing to do with whatever problem you think you have with me," Maya said, continuing to walk toward the group with measured steps. "Let him go, and we can discuss this directly." Tyler's smile widened. "Oh, we're definitely going to discuss things. But first, your little friend here is going to explain why he's been taking surveillance photos of your house." "It's not surveillance," Maya said calmly. "Alex is in my chemistry class. He's working on a photography portfolio for art credit. Your paranoia doesn't change the facts." Derek Walsh stepped forward, clearly enjoying the confrontation. "Paranoia? We caught this kid with detailed photos of your house, including shots of the garage and backyard. That's not random art photography." Maya moved close enough to see the photograph in Marcus's hands. It was indeed a picture of her house, taken from the street with clear detail of the exterior features. Alex's artistic eye had captured architectural elements that could theoretically provide tactical information about the residence's layout and security features. "Show me the other photos," Maya demanded, extending her hand toward Marcus. Tyler laughed. "I don't think so. These photos are evidence of something, and we're going to figure out what that something is." Maya realized that Tyler had stumbled onto information that could potentially compromise her family's security, even though his interpretation was completely wrong. Her father's careful operational security could be threatened by teenage conspiracy theories if they gained traction in the community. "Evidence of what exactly?" Maya asked. "A sophomore taking photos for a school project?" "Evidence that you and your mysterious family are hiding something," Tyler replied. "People don't take surveillance photos unless someone is paying them to do it." Maya could see Alex's growing terror as he realized he had become entangled in something far more serious than bullying. The boy was shaking visibly, and Maya noticed blood on his lip where someone had apparently hit him. "Alex," Maya said gently, looking directly at the frightened sophomore. "Are you okay?" "I just want to go home," Alex whispered, tears beginning to form in his eyes. Maya felt anger building in her chest as she watched an innocent student suffer because of Tyler's vendetta against her family. Her father's training had taught her to control emotions during tactical situations, but seeing a weaker person being victimized triggered protective instincts that were difficult to suppress. "You've made your point," Maya said to Tyler, her voice carrying a dangerous edge. "Now let Alex go, give him back his photographs, and we can settle whatever issues exist between us." Tyler's expression shifted as he recognized the change in Maya's demeanor. "Settle things? I like the sound of that. But the settlement terms include a full explanation of what your family is really doing in this town." Maya realized that Tyler's investigation had reached a level where continuing to protect her cover story might require sacrifices she wasn't prepared to make. An innocent student was being hurt because of her family's operational security requirements, creating exactly the kind of moral dilemma her father had warned her about. "My family isn't doing anything except trying to live quietly in your town," Maya said. "The fact that you can't accept that says more about you than about us." "Quietly," Derek repeated mockingly. "Is that what you call putting team members on the ground in front of half the school?" Maya saw the tactical situation clearly now. Tyler's group had escalated their campaign to include physical violence against uninvolved students, gambling that her protective instincts would force her to reveal information or take actions that could be used against her later. "That was self-defense against unwanted physical contact," Maya replied. "Just like this situation is about to become." Tyler released Alex and stepped toward Maya with the swagger of someone who believed numbers provided an insurmountable advantage. "You're outnumbered 8-1, and there are no teachers here to break things up. Maybe you should reconsider your attitude." Maya quickly assessed her tactical options. 8 opponents with size and strength advantages, open ground providing no cover, Alex requiring protection, and potential witnesses from other students or faculty. The scenario was designed to be unwinnable through direct confrontation. But Maya had learned from her father that unwinnable scenarios often contained hidden opportunities for those trained to recognize them. She pulled out her phone and held it where the entire group could see it clearly. "Before we go any further," Maya said calmly, "I want everyone to understand that this conversation is being recorded and automatically uploaded to cloud storage. Everything that happens here will be preserved permanently." The announcement caused visible uncertainty among Tyler's supporters. Maya could see several boys exchanging nervous glances as they contemplated the legal implications of their actions being documented. "So what?" Tyler said, though Maya noticed his confidence had decreased slightly. "We're not doing anything illegal. Assault, harassment, destruction of property, and now threatening behavior," Maya replied, gesturing toward Alex's torn backpack and scattered papers. "All documented with video evidence and multiple witnesses." Derek Walsh seemed less confident about the situation now that permanent documentation was involved. "We were just talking to the kid about his photography project." "Talking," Maya repeated, pointing to the blood on Alex's lip. "Is that what you call giving someone a fat lip?" Tyler's face flushed with anger as he realized Maya had outmaneuvered his plan. The presence of recording equipment changed the legal dynamics completely, transforming what he had intended as intimidation into potential criminal evidence. "Turn off the phone," Tyler demanded, his voice carrying less authority than before. "No," Maya replied simply. "Everything that happens now is being preserved for review by school administrators, parents, and potentially law enforcement." Maya could see the group dynamics shifting as individual players began to consider personal consequences rather than group loyalty. Several boys took small steps backward, distancing themselves from the confrontation as legal realities became apparent. "Alex," Maya said without taking her eyes off Tyler, "gather your papers and move behind me." Alex scrambled to collect his scattered belongings while Maya maintained position between him and the football players. Tyler watched his tactical advantage dissolving as the situation evolved beyond his control. "This isn't over," Tyler said, falling back on the same threat he had used repeatedly. "Yes, it is," Maya replied with finality. "Because now you understand the consequences of escalating this situation further. Any future incidents will be documented and reported through proper channels." Tyler's friends were already beginning to drift away from the confrontation, recognizing that their participation had been recorded and could be used against them later. Maya watched Tyler struggle with the realization that his campaign against her had backfired spectacularly. "Come on, Alex," Maya said gently. "Let's get you to the nurse's office." As they walked away from the practice field, Alex looked up at Maya with gratitude and confusion. "Why did they think I was spying on your house?" Maya considered her answer carefully. "Some people see conspiracies where none exist, especially when they can't understand something that doesn't fit their expectations." "What don't they understand about your family?" Alex asked innocently. Maya smiled slightly, thinking about her father's reaction when she told him about the afternoon's events. "They don't understand that some people prefer privacy over publicity. And they definitely don't understand what happens when you threaten someone who's been raised by a Navy SEAL." Alex looked confused by the reference, but he didn't ask for clarification. As they entered the school building, Maya realized that her carefully maintained cover had been compromised by her own protective instincts. Tyler now knew that her father had military connections, though he still had no idea about the specific nature of those connections. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from her father. "Status report when you get home. Heard there was an incident at school today." Maya stared at the message, wondering how her father had already learned about the confrontation. Then, she remembered that her father was a Navy SEAL, and gathering intelligence was part of his professional skill set. She typed back, "Situation contained. Full briefing when you get home." Her father's response was immediate. "Proud of you. Sometimes protecting others is more important than protecting cover stories." Maya felt a wave of relief and validation as she walked Alex to the nurse's office. Her father understood the impossible choices she faced and supported her decision to protect an innocent student even at the cost of operational security. As she left Alex in the capable hands of the school nurse, Maya reflected on how quickly her situation had evolved from personal harassment to something that required adult intervention. Tyler's escalation had finally crossed lines that would bring consequences he wasn't prepared to face. Maya knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges as word of the confrontation spread throughout the school. But she also knew that Tyler Morrison had made a critical error in assuming that threats and intimidation would work against someone who had been raised with Navy SEAL values. The quiet girl who had tried to remain invisible for weeks was gone, replaced by someone who would stand up for herself and protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Tyler and his friends were about to learn what it meant to face the daughter of a warrior who had never lost a battle that truly mattered. "Is that a threat?" Maya asked quietly, her voice carrying the same authority that had made Tyler release her arm on Friday. "It's information," Tyler replied. "Information you should consider carefully before you decide how to handle yourself around here." The warning bell rang, providing Maya with an opportunity to end the encounter before it escalated further. As she entered the classroom, she heard Tyler speaking quietly with his friends, their words too low to understand, but their tone suggesting continued planning. Maya took her seat and prepared for world history class, but her mind remained focused on tactical planning and risk assessment. The situation was evolving exactly as her father had warned it might, and She realized that her next decisions could determine whether the conflict remained contained or expanded into something that threatened her family's operational security. Maya nodded, though she felt overwhelmed by the complexity of maintaining cover while navigating teenage social dynamics. Her father seemed to sense her anxiety. "Remember," he said gently, "this situation is temporary. Either these boys will lose interest, or they'll push far enough to trigger consequences that end their behavior. But, regardless of how it develops, you're not handling it alone." Maya felt reassured by her father's confidence and support. As they finished organizing his office, she reflected on how different her life was from her classmates. While they worried about grades and social media drama, she dealt with operational security concerns and tactical response planning. Sunday evening arrived with the familiar tension that preceded difficult school weeks. Maya reviewed her notes from the weekend's conversation with her father, preparing for whatever Monday would bring. She had no way of knowing that Tyler Morrison was spending his Sunday planning his own response to Friday's humiliation, or that their conflict was about to escalate beyond anything either of them anticipated. As Maya set her alarm clock and prepared for bed, her father knocked softly on her door. "Remember," he said quietly, "you're stronger and smarter than these boys realize. Trust your training, trust your instincts, and don't hesitate to call me if you need support." Maya thanked him and settled into bed, wondering what the new week would hold. Outside her window, the quiet streets of Millbrook showed no sign of the tensions building within Jefferson High School's social dynamics. But Maya had learned from her father that the most dangerous operations often began with deceptive calm. Many of them pulled out their phones to text friends or post on social media about what they had witnessed. Maya knew that within hours, everyone in school would know that the quiet new girl had put Tyler Morrison on the ground. As Maya walked toward her locker, she heard whispered conversations following her down the hallway. Some students seemed impressed by what they had seen, while others appeared nervous about this new side of her personality. She realized that her carefully maintained low profile had been completely destroyed in a matter of minutes. Maya's phone buzzed with a text message from her father. "Hope you're having a good day at school. Looking forward to hearing about it tonight." Maya stared at the message for a long moment, wondering how she would explain to her father that his lessons in self-defense had just been put to use against the quarterback of her high school football team. She suspected that Commander David Chun would have mixed feelings about his daughter's first real test of the skills he had taught her. Yet here she was, unable to defend his honor or even acknowledge his service because of operational security requirements. The irony was painful. Her father's dedication to protecting others meant that his own daughter couldn't seek protection in his reputation. As the class period drew to a close, Maya made a decision. She would handle this situation the way her father would want her to, with intelligence, patience, and strategic thinking. Tyler Morrison and his friends might think they had identified an easy target, but they had no idea who they were actually dealing with. The bell rang, signaling the end of chemistry class. Maya gathered her materials and prepared to face whatever challenges awaited her in the halls of Jefferson High. She thought about her father's motto, "Quiet professionals get the job done." Perhaps it was time to show these boys what quiet professionalism looked like when pushed too far. As students filed out of the classroom, Maya caught Mrs. Rodriguez's attention. "Excuse me, could I ask about extra credit opportunities? I want to make sure I'm maintaining the highest possible grade." Mrs. Rodriguez smiled warmly. "Of course, Maya. I have some advanced chemistry projects that might interest you. Stop by after school, and we can discuss options." Maya thanked her and headed toward her next class, passing Tyler and his friends in the hallway. This time, she walked with purpose and confidence, no longer trying to remain invisible. If they wanted to play games, she would show them what real strategy looked like. After all, she was her father's daughter, and Navy SEALs never backed down from a challenge.